A mentor once told me, there's only one financial rule you really need. Everything else is just details. I expected some complex formula or secret investment strategy. Instead, he said, spend less than you earn and invest the difference. Do that for 30 years and you'll win. I thought it was too simple to be true. 30 years later, I understand. That one rule changed everything. Financial independence is not a mystery, but it does depend on one rule most people never apply consistently. If you wanted to become financially independent one day, where would you even start? Would you try to earn more money, find the perfect investment, start a business? Those ideas can help. But there's one rule that quietly determines whether financial independence ever becomes possible. A rule so simple that many people overlook it completely. The rule is this: spend less than you earn and invest the difference. It sounds obvious, almost too simple, but the power of this rule lies in how consistently it's applied. Because most financial problems happen when spending grows to match income. Let's look at what happens when this rule is ignored. Someone receives their paycheck, pays bills, upgrades lifestyle, spends on convenience. Maybe they save a little if something remains. Over time, their expenses grow alongside their income. Despite earning more money, their financial situation barely improves. They remain dependent on their next paycheck. This pattern can continue for decades. But the moment someone begins consistently investing the difference between income and spending, something powerful happens. Their financial system begins building assets. Assets are things that generate money, investments, stocks, businesses, real estate. These assets produce returns, and returns generate additional returns. This is where compounding begins working. Compounding is the process where your money begins making money on its own. At first, the effect feels small, but over time, it becomes extraordinary. Let's look at an example. Imagine someone invests $1,200 per month into a diversified portfolio, earning an average annual return of 8%. After 10 years, they might have around $215,000. After 20 years, about $740,000. After 30 years, more than $1.8 million. What's interesting is that the growth accelerates dramatically in the later years because compounding builds momentum. Your returns begin producing larger returns, and eventually your investments grow faster than your contributions. This is the moment when wealth begins building itself. Why do most people struggle to follow this rule? The challenge isn't mathematics, it's behavior. Modern life encourages spending. Advertisements promote constant upgrades. Social media highlights luxury lifestyles. Convenience spending becomes normal. Slowly, spending expands. But financial independence requires protecting one thing: your margin. Margin is the gap between what you earn and what you spend. This gap funds your investments, and investments create future freedom. Think of margin like the fuel in a rocket. Without fuel, the rocket never leaves the ground. Without margin, wealth never accumulates. Every dollar of margin you protect today is a dollar that will work for you for decades. The larger the margin, the faster you reach financial independence. And the earlier you establish that margin, the more time compounding has to amplify it. Now imagine two people earning the same income, both $90,000 per year. Person A spends nearly everything, saving maybe $3,000 annually. Person B spends $60,000 and invests $30,000. After 20 years, their financial lives look completely different. Person A still relies on their paycheck. Person B has built a substantial investment portfolio that produces income. The difference isn't intelligence or luck, it's the consistent application of one rule. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference. Another benefit of following this rule is reduced financial stress. Each investment strengthens your future. Unexpected expenses become manageable. Job changes become less frightening. Opportunities become accessible. You begin building financial security. When you have a growing portfolio behind you, a car repair or medical bill is no longer a crisis, it's just an expense. That peace of mind is itself a form of wealth. Now imagine continuing this process for decades. Your investments grow, returns compound, momentum builds. Eventually, your portfolio becomes large enough to generate meaningful income from dividends, interest, investment growth, real estate, business income. At this stage, your dependence on work begins decreasing. Work becomes optional, not because you suddenly became rich overnight, but because your assets are producing income. That's financial independence. And it rarely comes from dramatic financial breakthroughs. It comes from consistent behavior repeated for many years. Saving, investing, allowing compounding to work. You don't need perfect investment choices to reach financial independence. You don't need to predict the stock market. Many financially independent people use simple strategies: diversified index funds, automatic monthly contributions, low investment fees, patience, consistency. These simple systems often outperform complicated strategies because they remove emotion, remove timing decisions, and allow compounding to operate uninterrupted. Let's explore the behavioral side more deeply. The reason this simple rule is so powerful is that it aligns with how human psychology works. When you set up automatic investing, you bypass the daily temptation to spend. You remove the need for willpower. The rule becomes a system. And systems are reliable in ways that motivation is not. You don't have to be strong every day. You just have to build the structure once. The rule also forces you to make trade-offs explicit. When you decide to invest $1,200 a month, you're implicitly deciding not to spend that $1,200 on something else. That clarity helps you prioritize what actually matters. You stop leaking money on things that don't improve your life and start directing it towards something that does, your future freedom. Now imagine someone following this rule consistently, every paycheck, every year. Their lifestyle remains comfortable but controlled. Their investments grow steadily. Eventually, their investment income begins covering a portion of their living expenses, then a larger portion, and one day it covers everything. At that moment, something incredible happens. Work becomes optional, financial pressure disappears, your time becomes your own. That's the quiet power of the financial independence rule. Spend less than you earn, invest the difference, allow time and compounding to do the rest. It may sound simple, but when applied consistently over decades, this rule has the power to completely transform your financial future. If you take only one thing from this video, let it be this. You don't need a complicated plan. You don't need to be a financial genius. You just need to consistently spend less than you earn and invest the difference. Do that for long enough and the math will take care of the rest. 30 years from now, you'll look back and realize that the simplest rule was the only one that ever really mattered.